Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Review Realm. Thanks for joining us again for another album review here in the busy month of January that we have mentioned so many times before. Another one coming at you. Before we dive into it here, please be sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the show. Really helps us out with these album reviews, and also leave a comment below if you have some thoughts on the album that we are about to talk about. And as always, joining me in these album reviews, the SLB himself, Sam.
Hey guys, I'm looking forward to doing this one. We seem to have a pattern right now, and I definitely think it's going to break, between something heavy and thrashy and then something more poppy, hip hoppy, whatever. But the trend continues, at least for now, with today's review.
Yeah, we are all over the place right now. We are just chugging along here with a bunch of different reviews. You can find us if you're watching us here on YouTube. Thank you. You can also find us on the go, also definitely on Spotify, among a few other streaming platforms. Links will be in the description if you're watching us on YouTube. However you consume the review realm, we are probably there for you. So let's mention the album that we are going to talk about today. It just dropped this past Friday, the 23rd, as we are recording this. It is Poppy's new album, Empty Hands, for you. So, what I remember, Sam, about Poppy is that you mentioned her specifically to me years ago. And I
hmm
remember not knowing who she was. And at the time, I didn't really dive too far into it. I said, okay, it seems like I really didn't think she was an up and coming artist, but I think you mentioned that she was.
Yeah, so I was introduced to Poppy by a friend of the show, actually, Super Ghost Radio host Jerry, shouting out there. He mentioned in 2020 the album that she had dropped called "I Disagree," and I was looking for things. I mean, obviously, COVID and whatnot, looking for things to keep ourselves occupied. I put this album on, and when I listened to it, it blew me away. It was like, this is such a really off kilter album, and to me that album is still my favorite album because it was her transition from like pop to metal. She does some really weird artistic choices with her music. um and again, I mentioned it to her. I mean, mentioned her to you. I mentioned to a couple other people, like, yeah, whatever, that's cool, check them out. And then obviously her name started popping up with the WWE, the NXT stuff. She started doing all these soundtracks, um with NXT, all the pay-per-views. Fast forward now, this is her seventh album.
Yeah, for me, I think that was the album that you mentioned to me at the time, and I didn't dive too much into it at that time. However, the album she put out a couple of years ago, Negative Spaces,
hmm
I heard that album and I said, "Oh," I said, "I get it now." And
hmm
that was the album I think that put her in the position success-wise that she is in now. That
hmm
album was excellent. Um,
Well, yeah, between that, and then obviously her exposure with Bad Omens, with that song with Amy Lee and Courtney,
yeah,
this
and
past
also,
year, Knocked
who's
Loose.
Knocked Loose, yep,
And they just did a song at Pop. She did a song with Baby Metal too.
right. Yeah, so this Empty Hands had a lot riding on it because I think Negative Spaces was received very well. So I think the pressure was on, and it's only been 2 years since the last album here. So yeah, let's dive right into Empty Hands. Uh, right off the bat, Sam, I think this may be a case of good cop, bad cop. I didn't really enjoy this album.
You didn't enjoy this album? Okay, well, we're gonna definitely have a good cop, bad cop discussion.
Yeah, I'll we'll definitely share. I think this will be a first for us, having different opinions on this album. Yeah, because let's just go right into from the singles here. I think there was three singles for this.
Yep.
A 13 song album, about 38 minutes, from Sumerian Records.
hmm
So yeah, we had Unravel, then Bruce Sky, and then Guardian. Unravel At that point in the album, I said, "This album's already losing me," and I think that song sucks, to be
So
honest.
so it's interesting because I've been listening to this album. I'm gonna step back for a second because uh Disagree in 2020 is such a different album. It just you got to go back and listen to it and watch the music videos. And then I didn't listen to the last three. I did listen to Negative Spaces, but I was like, all right, this is starting to sound a little generic, if you will. Um, but I have to go back and re-listen to them. Unravel, this is the thing. I am a prog snob, so for me, I'm just like, oh, this if it's not proggy, sometimes I don't want in. But I had to step back and be like, okay, with like Baby Metal and with like Electric Callboy, it's not the most technical music I'm listening to, but for what it is, especially exposing people to metal. Yes, it very poppy chorus. Especially when you go to get up against like Taylor Swift and Sabrina Carpenter. Um, I actually don't mind this. This song actually has grown on me in the past like week.
Yeah, however, the other 2 singles, Blue Sky and Guardian. Blue Sky, I liked it a little bit more. It
Mhm.
felt like a standard single about pretty much about what you expect.
Yeah.
Guardian was one of the highlights of the album. I like this track a
Mhm.
lot. Very, very upbeat. I like the way she was singing on this one. That was the standout as far as the singles for me.
Yeah, no, I would probably put those about in the same like Guardian, Bruce Sky, Unravel, and I and again, singles are meant to sell an album. So it's like, all right, if the singles are good, is the album going to be good? So I guess we can hop right into that.
Yeah, I think what I'll mention right off the bat, just to get out of the way, there were a few tracks on here. Well, tracks I say, but they were kind of transition tracks. I think Constantly Nowhere and Blink. So he just not even a minute long. So he just acknowledged those there, and
Mhm.
that's it. Public Domain. It was not the way I expected the album to begin. I feel like probably should have started off the album a little bit more heavier.
Mhm.
I felt it was a weird intro.
Yeah, but I think it was kind of, this album is kind of a little bit all over the place. So I wasn't so um upset, especially with how her music usually is.
But yeah, I there were other points in the album. There are points in this album that are pretty good. I will
Mhm.
say that, like your Guardian being one of them. I think Dying to Forget is another one. It's
Mhm.
faster. It's a little bit it's heavier, and
Yep.
definitely angrier. I think that was one of the standouts for the album for me as well.
For me, if we're talking non-singles, yes, Dying to Forget Get is one. I like If We're Following the Light, where it's a little more mellow, and then the chorus really picks up and slams you.
That one I felt a Deftones vibe to that one a little bit.
Yes, I could see that. I didn't pick up on that, but now I think about it, it makes sense.
I
I sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I heard well, at that point in the album, I wrote down Deftones vibe, and I also wrote down I'd like this album to end now. At that point at that point of the
Yeah, so my other takeaway, I did like Empty Hands. I do like how the album ends. That's a very heavy track. Very in your face, very metalcore, which I hope she kind of pushes towards with some, her
yeah.
next album. But yeah, I think the album at points it does seem to drag.
Yeah, I think, another one of those points where I feel the album drags is The Weight. I was like, "Good, I do
Mhm.
not like this song." I was like, "It's not
You're
doing
like,
it
I'm
for
waiting
me."
for this to end.
Yeah, yeah, but on a more positive note, I think one of the other strong points of the album is Time Will Tell. It
Mhm.
kinda showcases everything that Poppy is about. I'm
Yep.
surprised. I don't know if it was counted as a single. I think she dropped a video for it the day the album, came out.
Mhm.
Um, and another point too where I felt like a lot of these songs were starting to sound the same was Ribs. Um, it might have been fallen in line with what you were saying about your view on Negative Spaces where, like, things were starting to sound a little generic.
Mhm.
I felt that way about that, and The title track I felt was kind of a last ditch effort to go crazy. It was
Mhm.
faster and it was heavier. I think she ended the album on a stronger note, but overall, I was not crazy about this.
Um, I would have made it. I would have at least made it shorter. Um, I would have taken out because you and I think have the same view on these like little 20-second like
Well,
bits. I'm
yeah,
just
because
never a fan of those.
I felt with those transition tracks because I think the last thing she mentions on each of them is the title of the next track. Like, I think, or maybe I'm getting it mixed up here. I know she says constantly nowhere at the end of that. I don't, but what she definitely does it is, the last thing she says on Blink is ribs. So
Mhm.
I felt like instead of a transition track, you could have just incorporated it into ribs and, save yourself another track.
Yeah, looking at Blink to Ribs, I mean, that would have if you threw that's 44 seconds long, Ribs is 3:39. If you threw that on there, that's gonna bring you under 4.5 minutes still. And you don't have to play it
Well,
live. You don't have if you don't want to incorporate that first 40 seconds into the song live, you can always cut it. Bands do it all the time.
right, yeah, and I just it's sad to say overall, I think this is a step down from Negative Spaces. I think maybe probably could have milked the success of the previous album a little bit more and allow more
Mhm.
time. I don't think that the turnaround was, I think, too quick for this.
Well, it's interesting. It is 2026 right now, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is like her second album since I Disagree," and I forgot I Disagree was January 2020, Flux is 21, Zig is 23, Negative Space is 24, this is 26. So she's pumping them out right now. This is her seventh album.
Yeah, I don't know how she's doing it because she seems to be constantly be on tour. It seems whether
Mhm.
with Linkin Park or among other bands or whatever. Yeah, she's very busy right now. Um, so yeah, it's sad to say that I'm not really. I thought this album would be really good. But for me, I was actually pretty disappointed by it.
Um, I will. My last thoughts here, at least, would
Yeah.
be I loved I Disagree. I didn't listen to the last three, the two after that. I listened to Negative Spaces once, and then I listened to this one, and I do enjoy this one. It definitely has its gives and takes. But if I was to say we need to do videos, it would be because of this. Because there's a lot here that I'm like, all right, I think I need to sit down and like revisit everything for her and really get a feel for the rest of her music.
Yeah, I think that might be what I have to do as well. I think I know Negative Spaces, and I understood how that really brought her into the success that she is now. So it might be worth revisiting her discography, or at least going through it for the first time. But yeah, overall, that's our thoughts on Empty Hands, Poppy's new album. Let us know in the comments below. I'm sure maybe people visiting this might disagree with my point of view on this album, and then fully in favor of Sam's enjoyment
Or
of the
vice
album.
versa.
Yeah, or it could be flipped, but yeah, definitely let us know. Yeah, we're gonna have more reviews coming at you, and as always, thank you for listening, and do not forget to join the Bedlam.